Sorry, Jason, you can start wherever you.
Okay, I won't start at the
Yeah.
beginning, no.
Yeah.
I'll just pick up, what we're planning to do from here is evaluate our building system options, either steel frame, timber frame, or aluminium with plastic membrane. Also, we're finishing our gathering data about the site and, sewer, water, electrical, those things to add to our survey, and then we can get straight into conceptual design. We're having initial discussions with council regulatory staff after Easter with Solitaire and John Tate, so we're booking that in. And we'll be making submissions to a long-term plan, so that's coming up. So successes, just to summarise, the big swim, we're really grateful that in these times we've been able to raise so much money. Participation's been really good. And we're really grateful to the services clubs who've come alongside us, and really thrilled that we've already had donation of the laser survey. It's been done for free, so that's a huge boost. One of the challenges, there are others, but the one I'll highlight is we don't yet have any movement on setting up a new ownership and governance entity, but we know that that needs to happen at some point in the process.
It's awesome. Are there any questions at all from anyone? I think there were quite a few people who attended the big swim and were quite impressed. And of course, Councillor Newman is leading the way with her efforts. Yeah. Other questions? Thanks for the update, Jason. Really appreciate it. Thank you very, very much. Bill, please.
Right. Thank you.
NZ Cycling Classic.
New Zealand Cycling. Thank you for the opportunity to come here and say my bit. For those who don't know me, I'm the race director of the New Zealand Cycle Classic, which is the only international event that puts your region on television in New Zealand and overseas. The race has been going on for 37 years, but I'm going to talk about this year's race. I'm here because this year we decided to bring the race into your area to promote it, to encourage people to come here, which they did. The residents really endorsed the race. They stay at the gate watching the race. We got riders from 11 countries participating here, and the race was shown all over the world. To bring this race here, it cost me a lot of money, $9,700 all in traffic management. Okay, it was a big success, especially when this council refused to put $1 single into the event. I believe that that's the way you treat events organizers. You're doing the wrong way. Okay, there are no other international events here, and you need them. The economic impact, the promotion of the region, cycling do that for you. Okay. To my sense, course, I got an invoice for $1,400 from your council. When your council done absolutely nothing to do with traffic management, hasn't helped us in any way. No one in this council spent 5 minutes working in anything to do with the cycle classic. Absolutely nothing. I even asked them to cut the grass up Admiral Hill, was never done. I asked them to fix 2 potholes, which was very dangerous for the riders around at the back here, was never filled. I asked them to remove the gravel because you guys get companies resealing the road, and they go and they leave the sign there for weeks and no one working, and the gravel is there. For trucks and cars, might be right. For cyclists, it's really dangerous. I had 2 ambulances during the race because of that reason, to avoid any incidents. And I get paid, I get charged $1,400. I get fined to bring in you guys an event to your region. I remember reading about you guys at the elections, promising everything because you want a better region. I'm helping you, and you penalizing me. For your information, I closed downtown Wellington for 24 hours. Wellington, not Carterton, Wellington. I don't get charged anything. They give us $60,000. Matterson City Council didn't give me any money, but they didn't charge me anything. Why? It's logic. They don't do anything for it. Doesn't cost them any money. They don't put any effort. They don't give people working on it or anything. So this thing here, what you're doing, doesn't upset me, really made me really angry because I feel I've been ripped off. I'm an event organizer, and if you don't like it, I can go somewhere else. Not what I want to do. The event was so successful that I want to come back here next year. But if you're going to charge me $1,500, this year and don't wipe this stupid bill, why should I come back here? Why should I spend $9,000 in traffic management? Cost about $400,000 to get the event off the road. Okay, $400,000. And you can go into YouTube today, search your city council, search the New Zealand Cycle Classic, and you see the thousands of people who watch your stage here in Carrington from all over the world. You don't trust me. Maybe you don't know anything about the race because I've never seen you, any of you on the race. I've never seen you at the start line. I've never seen you on the side of the road. It's about time you guys get there to these events because events organizers work really hard, especially this time after the famous pandemic, really hard to get money to run events. $1,500 is not gonna kill me. Tomorrow I still get something to eat. I still go overseas on holidays. It's the principle. It's the principle. $1,500, excuse me, $1,500 is not gonna make you guys, your council, out of the financial problem you have. But according to people I talk, they cannot believe that you are doing this. So I'm really angry. I come here today to ask you to wipe this payment because you don't deserve it. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there any questions? Ms. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Does the Cycle Classic make a loss or cover its costs or make a profit?
It doesn't make any profit. You can check that. We get money from trust and we get money from councils. Okay? If the event make a profit, I probably won't be here today arguing for $1,400. Very simple.
So does it?
$1,400 doesn't seem a lot of money, but for us, which I work 11 months of the year and it's run by a club who have no money, it's a lot of money.
So does it run at a loss, cover costs, or make
Cover costs.
cover costs?
Cover costs.
What's the attraction for the Cycle Classic of the Wairarapa? Carterton
This is what I say. You guys never been to it. You should get out of your. Well, the attraction is that we promote the region to the world. Okay, you can get the biggest rugby game here anywhere in New Zealand. The biggest game shown live, and all the show is a field of grass and people running around. Nothing else. With road cycling, especially in this event, which is international, with the television, we can show Admiral Hill, we can show Martinborough, we can show Carrington Farms.
No, you misunderstood. Sorry. My question was, what's the attraction of the Wairarapa to the Classic? I understand you're telling me what the attraction to
Okay,
is.
the attraction is that I moved here especially because I've been racing overseas and I race all over the country. And to me, I organize races around the country. To me, I thought the best area to run an international cycle race is the Wairarapa because we got the hills, we got the flat, we got the undulating, and we don't have a lot of traffic like Wellington, Auckland, or Christchurch. But for me to do that, you have to support the events. So that's, I don't know if that answers your question.
Thank you. Yeah.
Scott Waingawa. Do you apply to our district council for any grants, through our grants?
Yeah, I apply and they say no.
Okay.
No 1 cent.
This year.
Yeah, last year I think they give me $1,500, which is $1,500. It's all right, but $1,500 for an event that costs $400,000. I'm not saying disrespectful, but you guys had to see the big light. You had to see the vision what I'm trying to do here. Okay. You don't understand cycling. You don't watch cycling, so you don't understand. But go onto the internet and see who's watching. Just see the video of the Carrington Circle. See which countries and what people are commenting in there.
Are there any other questions? Thank you, Councillor Ayling.
Thank you for coming and speaking with us. My question was just with regards to the bill that you've been sent from Carrington Council. What's the bill description? What is the
Traffic management.
traffic management? Okay.
1,500. It went up and up. $1,552. Like I say, for you guys must be not a lot of money, but for a club it's a lot of money. And if I want to come back here next year, I don't want to come back here and this guy charge me for something. You got nothing. You done absolutely nothing. Nothing. Okay? Nothing. You don't even watch the cycle race. And that's to put it bluntly. Sorry if I'm so blunt, but this thing made me really angry because, like I say, any event organizer who comes here or anywhere, it's really hard life. It's really hard job. You have to please a lot of people, and then to hear hard done by it is more disappointing. Okay, I encourage you to go out and see events, not just my event. Any event is here. Don't just go out when you are in election time. Go out all the time, and you appreciate how much work, whether you're organizing a cycle race, a rugby game, or some charity thing, how much work is behind.
Thank you, Joe.
I have my
Thank
say
you.
thanks.
No, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Thank you. I'll call Graham Adele. Graham, please take the chair. We're talking roading and preventative maintenance.
Hey, just come and talk about the roading and the contract. Just with Fulton Hogan. They seem to be doing quite a few jobs and some of them seem to be failed. The Corel, why did we get a consultant from Wellington to fly a drone? Then go back to Wellington and say, tell Fulton Hogan what was going on or what was required. Haven't we got some engineers in Carterton? Why don't they step up and go, hey, I'll look after that job? It can't have been too difficult. A lot of it might have been preventable maintenance because it was water running across the core rail for probably 5-6 years. So that's probably made the ground move when you got concrete pipes. One of them might have dropped near the outlet. So the water didn't go through the pipe, it was going under the pipe, and that made the whole road move down. You go out to Te-Rail, they done some dropouts. They cut the side of the bank, there's some dropouts on the left-hand side of the road, but they carted material for probably 3-4 k's down the road. Now, when they have another machine there and start filling up the dropouts and make the road so much wider and safer. Their inspections, I've shown some photos and I know some of the culvert pipes have been inspected probably twice in the last 12 months and nothing's been done. And there'd be one with the sandbags up on top. And one other one, there's a hole probably about 4-6 inches where the concrete pipe has collapsed. And at the moment, you've got logging trucks travelling that road every day, metal trucks, you have flat point trucks, you have McFadgen's truck and trailer going as well. Plus, Joe Blob's travelling from from Flat Point into town every day. So it's quite a busy stretch of road. I think we need to make people a bit more accountable for what's happening in their jobs. Maybe engineers might need to step up a little bit and go and inspect jobs while jobs are being constructed and go, hey, you're not actually quite doing that correctly or doing it right. And if a job fails, who pays for it to get refixed? There's some dig outs that were done or stabilising done around Jackson's Creek Corner and up by Nardify. They were done before Christmas and I'm not sure if they've been sealed yet, but last week one of them had a pothole probably of about 4-5 inches deep right on an inside corner. Virtue from Nardify up to the Te-Rail Hall, for example, why don't you take the grass away from the edge of the road and let the water go back into the water table? Because if you get a truck and trailer there when it's raining, you've virtually got to stop because you can't see because of the spray. And that's dangerous like that. And then 3 months' time, there'll be a pothole because the water can't go anywhere and all the trucks going over it, we're just creating work. Now, why can't we prevent it? The top of the core rail was exactly the same. Water ran down the road, so we end up doing 4 or 5 patches from the top. But all it needs was a grader blade or a digger, go through, take it off, and it's preventable. Spends $1,000 instead of spending $20,000.
4 minutes.
And we're talking about what is actually in the contract with Fulton Hogan. There must be things in that contract that need to be done regardless, I feel. that the council would have said, right, you got to do this and this regardless in 12 months. Now, does anyone know what's in that contract? Does anyone know that that work is actually happening? And if it's not happening, how about all the ratepayers get a rebate? Because it's like sending in a bill and paying for it and the work's not getting 100% completed.
Okay,
That's it.
thank you. Are there any questions anyone would like to ask? Grant? Clarify anything? I think,
Do you have some experience in roading apart from, driving up and down them?
Yeah.
What's your background?
I've worked for Oldfield for best part of 10 years. And then I built forestry roads. So when you build a forestry road now, you're accountable. So you're accountable for 60, 70 tonne. Now, if that road collapses, that's back on me. Then it's the guy, the company he works for, and then it's for the forest manager. Now, the buck really stops at the council office to say we need to make people accountable for their jobs. And why do we need a consultant to come over and fly a drone around the core? And what did that cost, It's just, and then we're talking about our rates are going up. Well, my rate's going to go up close to $800. Well, I just can't get $800. And there'll be a lot of retired people in the same boat. So I really need to, it's easy just to blame everyone else, but I think we need to start at the top and work our way down and go ching, ching, ching. And we can blame the big heavy logging trucks, but that was John Key's. But you think about it, forestry's big. Jarnell, Kiwi Lumber, McCarthy's, they're all in Carlton District Council. They're all giving Carlton District Council rates. You go out to Oriel, Jarnell down one side, Forest Enterprises. I think they might be the biggest in the Wairarapa for holding of pine trees, but they're right down the other side of the road, down the Craigielee Road, down the Bristol Road, and you go into the Kaiwat, they're in there as well, and Jarnell. And all these subcontractors, they all live, majority, some of them live in Carterton, so they pay rates.
5 minutes.
Yep.
any other questions? No? Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for taking the time. Roger, please take the time. Thank you.
Well, I'm here really to say thank you to the mayor, you councillors, and to Jeff, the chief executive, and his staff for all the work that you've put in to get the long-term plan to the stage that it's at now. And the reason I'm making a point of saying thank you is that we all saw the headlines about the rate rise. A lot of people will not be thinking of anything of the complexity of the plan or all the issues you're grappling with. They won't even think of one word. They'll just think 15.09%, which is not welcome. I mean, my bank account is not looking forward to it any more than anyone else's. But you people have the responsibility of keeping this town and rural area fit for purpose. No one's going to thank you. I mean, it's rather fitting coming from the last speaker. No one's going to thank you if the roads start falling to bits, the pipes start failing, or we can't dispose of our poos and wees properly at the far end of town. You will get the blame if all that fails, but you'll also get the blame if you spend money to put it right or to stop the problems happening in the first place. Probably everyone around this table will know that local government finance has been in a crisis for a few years. Often the only place you can sheet home the bill is the rates bill for all sorts of things. There was a future of the local government review in the last government. And I didn't agree with everything that came up with. In fact, quite a few things I didn't agree with, but at least they were grappling with the problem. Hopefully this current government will grapple with the problems as well. But we need more than grappling. We need something done, but it will be way beyond a mayor and 8 councillors in a small town just outside Wellington to put those bigger problems right. It's far easier to blame the rates rise. One could blame individuals. Now, I can think of certain people, I won't name them. But what I will say, for the unintended muck-up of the wastewater treatment projects some years ago, and I could think of individuals, there's no point naming them because they don't work for council anymore. People will forget their names, but they will blame you. And some of you weren't even councillors at the time that certain mistakes were made. So you've got the long-term plan will be out for consultation soon. And could it be improved? Well, possibly. We've got a consultation period. Let's see if it can be improved. But the problems you're tackling are fundamental ones. I would suggest if you do change the draft, it's more likely to be in the nature of tweaks rather than a dramatic drop from 15.09%. You know, the problems are going to remain. People who will criticise you for the rates rise, I'd like to see if they can do better if they were around your table. And finally, a message for anyone who is interested in making a submission. I would suggest now is not the time to just complain about the rates rise level. It's not the time to have a whinge, and it's not the time to vent about the rise in rates. Be specific, have a look at the long-term plan. It won't be the most exciting document that you've ever read. Have a look at the detail in it. Make some practical suggestions if you think it can be improved. But if you want anything extra in, think about the cost. Think about the responsibility of pushing the rates up even more. Or if you do want to drop things out of the long-term plan, just think of the consequences. And would you be wanting to live with the consequences if you were a councillor? And above all, don't blame, be practical and constructive. And at this stage, the stage of approving the draft to go out for consultation, I would suggest that you people need thanks rather than blame.
Roger.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Roger, I think everyone's just great. Thank you for being here, Roger.
Basking in your warmth.
Thank you. So,
Someone's not giving you a hard time about it.
yeah, it's a helpful way to finish what has been what is a challenging time right now. I think I can speak for the council and say we appreciate yours. Thank you very much, and taking the time to come here and give your message. I really appreciate it. Yes. Youth Council views, we've already had a conversation, but Josie, please.
Hello again. I would like to start off by thanking you all for changing your schedules this meeting so that the whole Youth Council could join you. Thank you so much. As we previously stated, on Monday we looked over the long-term plan with Councillor Newman and Eliza, and we came out with some questions. Why was the wastewater plant left without major upgrades for 60 years? Will the upgrades to the sediment tank last long enough to negate the need for a new tank within the next 5 years? Is the upgrade actually a cheaper alternative, or is it just going to be a quick fix? On page 15, the additional projects listed in the long-term plan include a lot of water and roading. Our Youth Council made the observation that there's no community projects discussed that don't involve transport as the major idea, as in trails and pedestrian crossing. Why is this? Your long-term vision includes cultural outcomes such as a community that embraces and engages our cultural diversity and heritage. What steps have we taken or will take in the future that gives us this outcome? The document has stated that we expect Carterton's aged population 65 plus to increase by 30% in the near future. So do we have any projects that might make Carterton more accessible and convenient to prepare for this? The document states that it prefers cost-effective ways to manage the issues, which is expected from a financial document. But will these actually fix the issues, or will it cause in the next few years when you have to make one again for them to come up again instead of new ideas to come forward?
Thank you. I think we don't have the time in this particular part to answer the questions. I don't know if it's particularly appropriate right now to address what could be interpreted as submission already on the LGBT. But what I would ask is if you could table those questions, and so we can then come back to you with the formal explanations to all of your questions. But are there any questions from, yes, please, Councillor Cherry.
Hey, my question for you. Will the Youth Council be putting a submission into the long-term plan?
We will be.
Excellent. Great. I look forward to receiving that.
Absolutely.
That's what we need to hear, is from the youth and thinking for future generations. So and if you know anyone else that outside of the Youth Council that maybe you could suggest they might be interested as well, that would be very beneficial.
Any other questions? Appreciate that. Thank you very much. It's nice to have people who are interested enough to read the document and who actually have questions. And I just want to say formally on behalf of the council, welcome to the Youth Council. We had a great discussion earlier and it's good to see you all. Look forward to seeing more of you.
Just before going, I would like to say that we're looking forward for you guys to come to our next meeting in April. And thank you so much for having us today.
Yeah, thank you. Excellent. Thank you very much. It's a nice way to finish. Item 6.1, confirmation of minutes, the ordinary council meeting for February. Recommendation of the minutes of the council to be approved and correct. So someone to move, please. Taken to read, Councillor Jerry Campbell, seconded by Deputy Mayor. All in favour? Aye. Against? Motion is carried. Move 6.2. Minutes of the extraordinary council meeting held on the 28th of February. Likewise, these are for record of that meeting. Councillor Lawrence and Councillor Della seconding. All in favour? Aye. Aye. Against? Motion is carried. 7.1. Correspondence. There is a recommendation that the correspondence attached be received, noting that the correspondence has been received. Someone to move? Councillor Cretney, seconded by Councillor Cherry Campbell. All in favour? Aye. Aye. Against? Motion is carried. 7.2, into the meat Waingawa processed water project.
God, if I could ask Johannes Ferreira to the costs, should those questions arise. What has changed since the paper was written last week is that we've received a letter response from JNL with regards initial request, which was a week or so back, for their feedback on the issue. If I could perhaps read out sections of the letter for council. You can note that, as previously mentioned to us, they're working to reduce their water use and losses and subsequent demand on the Masterton urban water supply, and they'll continue on doing this work regardless of the outcome of this project. They believe that this project has merit beyond commercial aspects. In fact, commercially, it's difficult at this point to make a positive case for the project, but they do see wider and tangible benefits of water conservation, resilience, economic growth of the region as the true benefits. And on this basis, J&L support the project in principle. They do carry on to say that they will be required to make capital investment on their side to enable the use of non-potable processed water, and that would require approval from the board with quite vigorous due diligence. And until that process is complete, they cannot give anything more than support in principle. So I just wanted to update that before council considers this paper.
Thank you. Taking that everybody has read the paper, all its glory. Are there any questions or comments, discussion about the paper? Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, we continue to kick this around and look at the information. It's a bit of a moving feast. I suppose the thing that jumped out at me was the under whole of life cost around revenue. You know, that one line sums up why local government is so challenged all the time. You know, we're selling 1,000 litres of water taken through from the ground, right through the system, delivered to somebody's door, and we're charging $1 for 1,000 litres. I can't go to the
A cubic
supermarket.
metre, not $1 for 1,000 litres.
Yeah. For
It's a cube, yeah, sorry.
1,000 litres. I mean, I can't go to the supermarket and buy more than a litre for $4 or $5. You know, and when you look at the numbers, if that was $10 or $20 a litre, the numbers stack up.
Yeah.
Who else provides 1,000 litres of water for $1? And you know, and even in our own town, you know, I think if we go over our 225 cube allocation, it's still only $1.70 or something for a cubic metre. And I know from a business perspective, if you're going to improve your bottom line, you either increase costs, increase income, or reduce costs. Well, this particular project we're looking at, the costs are the cost. The only way to make it stack up is to increase the revenue. And I look at that and think, are we insane selling 1,000 litres of water for $1? It just, I mean, it can't be done. And yet we're doing it, and we're wondering why the figures don't stack up. How do we? So my question, the question is, what latitude do we have? I know we're selling to customers and customers don't want to pay, but how can we justify selling to anybody 1,000 litres of a commodity as valuable as water for $1?
Yeah.
As part of the long-term plan process, this was actually identified as an issue, and management took on. We didn't have the resources to do it in conjunction with the long-term plan, but we do have an action point to actually review all of our water cost infrastructure and determine whether our cubic meters, so the 225 cubic meters per household, is appropriate, and whether the pricing that we're charging for the overage is also appropriate. And that is a project that we will pick up as once we're through this long-term plan. But you make a very valid point that it should be cost neutral to the council, and $1 doesn't quite feel like it's cost neutral. But until we do that work, I don't have a better answer.
But if I might just add, in terms of this project, it's important to note that this will be untreated water, and the purpose or the reason for having it at $1 at this stage was to give an incentive to go on to that supply, because otherwise we're competing with the treated supply that is at a very low level as it is. So that was the reason for the very low rate.
But I guess, you know, and this is the thing. I mean, even with the talk about Three Waters, the underinvestment of billions of dollars, in reality, if council was able to charge the true cost of drawing water and processing it and delivering it to the front gate of every property, it would be at a rate that enabled investment.
Yeah.
Good point.
Questions?
I think councillor.
Yes, councillor Lawrence.
Just a question about the cost benefit analysis. I mean, we're showing a $1.5 million deficit over the life of the project, but that's on the total cost of the establishment cost of $2.8 million, something like 1.9 isn't coming from Carterton District Council. So looking at it narrowly from our perspective, it is still a slight positive, even if it's a whole bunch of risks, which we probably don't want to run, but I think that from our point of view, that's a little bit gloomy.
That's excluding the depreciation though, right?
Yeah.
So that was about 2.5 million across the life of the asset.
Yeah.
Which isn't insignificant.
See,
We're required under the legislation to fund depreciation.
Yeah.
So once we pay, the project had initial 10-year life with a loan, which was paid back during that 10-year period of time, after which we would begin funding depreciation as we're required to under the local covenant. Now, so we can't not fund part of an asset just because we received the initial investment through a grant. So we will have to fully fund the long-term replacement of this asset over the life of the asset, and that will drive the costs up.
Sure.
You make a good point.
councillor, yes,
My
councillor Ailey.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I was just following on from councillor Williams' point. I think he summed up very well why this is a ridiculous situation when we're paying, charging out $1 for this. But I think even in that very minuscule cost, J&L seemed very lukewarm to the proposal. And I think we're considering something that's very costly and benefits them significantly. And I think their email was fairly, we're interested, but we're not going to commit to it. And that puts us in a really risky position when we could go through all of this work and commitment and go through the next gate, as we've been talking about, to put this project forward more. And the people who will be the primary beneficiaries at this point are about it.
Yeah.
So that just makes me really nervous.
Yeah, and my thought, my question in my head is, what's taken them so long? They were the ones who raised this question at the outset. They were the ones who expressed, the interest, and yet it hasn't been to their board for a conversation. That I'm puzzled as to why there's been a delay in that. But Councillor Greene.
Thanks, His Worship. I have a couple of questions. What's the extension time from Kanoa?
Councillor Cretney, they have confirmed that they would be supportive. We would have to go through the process, but in conversation with Shane Rad, it could be up to 12 months if we needed that. So, but we will have to follow the formal process.
Do you think that might enable an adequate amount of time to have received the 3D imaging of our aquifers?
That's due in December.
Potentially.
So I'm not involved or privy to that the outcome of that survey. However, the challenge with the location of our land is still around that fault line in and around the bore, and therefore we feel that the revised scope is probably a more preferable or more has a lower risk level to it than is trying to establish a bore there.
But that wouldn't rule out a bore.
Yeah, it doesn't rule it out.
Different location.
Rule out.
Yeah.
So just further to that, you've mentioned in your report that the water race already struggles to get water through to the end of line users during the heat of summer, and that could potentially create issues with supplying the industrial area. Are we not setting ourselves up to fail if we agree to supply someone like J&L or other users in the industrial estate? If suddenly we find we can't supply our end users in the water race. Aren't we?
They've always got the fallback on Masterton.
Excuse me, Your Worship. Sorry, I didn't.
Yeah, they've always,
There is, you're absolutely right. There is always the fallback of potable water. At a slightly higher cost from Masterton. The other aspect with water races, we would often use the nighttime to slowly fill the tank. So refill the 2.5 million litre tank that we've got there and then use that during the day. But there, you are absolutely right. It is creating a new draw on the water race network that will have challenges like any draw will have during the middle of summer and low flow periods.
Yeah.
so, no, sorry, finish these, please. Yeah, I'm sorry.
So then it turns to the consenting with Greater Wellington with the water races, and they've pretty well stipulated that there'll be no increased take from that. Have iwi been involved in the discussions around utilising the water race to feed?
So as stated in the report, we haven't discussed the change in scope with iwi yet. From in terms of the water race, the resource consent, the iwi is really interested in the take from the river. But at this stage, this is a concept stage of trying to make the project come up with another option.
Councillor Ayling, yes.
I'm just trying to remember from the email that Jeff was just reading out. I thought it said that they were needing to change these things their end to go from a potable water to a not treated water. Would they then be able to flick back if we got to a position where we couldn't provide them with the water via the race? How hard would that be for them to then go, hang on, now I need to connect into Masterton?
I would need to confirm with J&L. Obviously, that's an engineering question for them. My expectation is it would be an and, so they would be able to take.
Right.
Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, I suppose, I mean, for me, this is still going to be a medium to long-term asset to the district. But I just sense it's the right project, but the wrong time. I mean, as we know, we're always having conversations with landowners in that Waingawa estate, and projects may or may not eventuate. And so this could turn on a dime. This could go from wrong timing to right timing in a heartbeat if the right development came along and the right conditions. So I think the work that's been done could be picked up. Again, yes, Kanoa may or may not, but there might be something else available in the thing. Given that, I mean, what I'd like to see is I'd like to see landowners in Waingawa submit to the long-term plan and convince us that a 0.5% a year increase in our rates is something we should consider, because, you know, we're going to be talking about the long-term plan shortly, and we're going to ask our district for submissions, and I can't imagine there'll be a massive appetite to increase the sort of numbers, which this would do, because it's not in our long-term plan. So I love the project, always have, but it's a very hard sell right now based on this report at this moment. That's the way I feel about it.
Councillor Della, I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Thank you, you're on. Whilst I've been a supporter of the project all the way, and the letter that Jan Hill have come up with and come back to us to support it in principle only changes the goalposts to me. Even with the deficit shown over the 50-year life of the project, I thought that we can work around that somehow. And one thing that I looked at, and it's probably a question for Jeff, if we had a longer term loan, would that make any difference to the forecast deficit? And as Councillor Williams, Deputy Mayor Williams has already said, the Waingawa industrial estate is only about a third developed at this stage.
That's right.
So there's a hell of a lot more potential there for businesses to go there that may need a potable water system only. So I think long term, we've got to keep that in mind. As Dale said, it is a long-term project, but the timing is not right at this stage. Jeff, could you answer the question whether a long-term loan would make any difference to them?
In a single word, no. What would make a difference would be more capital contributions either from Kanoa or from our neighbours.
If I just want to test the table first before I offer my thoughts. Councillor Gallen, any thoughts? Councillor Newman? Councillor Cretney, while they're thinking, what was yours?
I just wanted to reinforce what Jeff's just mentioned, and I can't understand Marsden District Council's thinking on this when they're suffering a huge amount of water loss. They still haven't got all their water meters installed, and they're only just deciding whether they're going to use them or not. And we would be assisting them by setting this up, and the fact that they won't provide financial assistance, it's just hard to fathom.
Yeah. And I guess it's hard for me to ignore the different water projects that are being floated and touted. We have the Water Resilience Group. Everyone in that group is talking about how water is a major issue. And everyone wants us to put money in to develop that strategy. Masterton was totally on board with this because of the huge advantages to Masterton by taking that major supply off them, so increasing their ability to service their metropolitan area. And now they're offering us a loan. Well, we can get a loan from anybody. So, that's thoroughly disappointing that Masterton is backpedaling on what is a strategic asset for the whole of the Wairarapa. I guess if I look at the water, then we're talking about the water storage, reviving the water storage project again, and everybody wants Carterton to contribute to that as well. No one's asked us to give them a loan. They're asking us to give them cash. I find it quite ironic that the people who want us to give them cash are talking about giving us a loan for water projects as well. At the same time, we got papers here which we will address around the WC and the government's better water done better proposal. If I was to take on board, Johannes, what you've just advised, that Kanoa might be open to a 12-month extension, there's a lot's going to happen in that 12 months. There's going to be conversations around water storage and where that water best comes from, water resilience and where that water best comes from. The WSE has to be, we have to move down that pathway. Mm-hmm. And one of the conversations that we've had is whether we have a WSE of our own and whether we open up to other investors. I don't know that there's ever a right time to invest in infrastructure. What I do know is looking across the hill and looking north and south of us, there's clearly a wrong time to not make decisions. And it's just sometimes it's up to the brave to do what they know needs to be done for the long-term benefit of our community. And like you quite rightly point out, Councillor Della, the industrial park is only about a third done, and it will need water. It's fallen. I would be reluctant to see this terminated at this point. I think there's more work that we need to do. And one of those might be exploring within the framework of the WSE as to whether we could get a private investor to support us. One of them might be, Jeff, you and I going to Wellington and sitting down with a couple of ministers and putting this very problem down in front of them and asking not for 1.7 million, asking for 3 million. For the betterment of the whole of the Wairarapa, not just Carterton, but I don't think there's ever a right time.
Can I follow on?
Yeah, please.
To talk completely what you've just said, I think costs will only go up. We've just seen it on our LTP, you know, in the last 3 years, costs have gone up 37%, whatever. We've got $1.75 million from Kanoa.
Yeah.
Who, I mean, if they turn around and go, no, we're not giving you an extension, well, that answers it for us. But if they're prepared to give us a 12-month extension, so much mahi has gone into this already. On Wednesday last week at the Wairarapa Combined Council Forum, water resilience was what, 2 or 3 topics? Unfortunately, I had to dip outside COVID and I couldn't concentrate, but it's, you know, it's top of mind. If we don't have water, we die. You know, industry doesn't work. We can't grow things. And our industrial estate will shrink. It won't grow any more than the third it already is. I think I was actually this morning, I was pondering Gary McPhee, this event centre, and his vision for investing in infrastructure that was a nice to have. And now everybody loves it. Everybody is grateful for it. Everybody is proud of it. We are talking about water infrastructure. We're talking about an opportunity to bring more industry to Aotearoa and to the Wairarapa. We are looking to help out our mates north of the bridge who, you know, God, it's very sweet of them to give us a loan, but thank you very much, as you've already mentioned. But we are looking for the big picture here.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, we've got our youth council in the room with us. Yes, our population is ageing, but if we don't do stuff now, and if we're not brave and just don't take that step, what are we giving for these kids to step into? An even bigger mess. So Ron, I'm with you. I don't think it's the time to pull the plug on it. Sorry, I'll stop now because I'm getting emotional.
Thank you.
I think Robin's right. You know, I was saying before, as Dale said, maybe great project, not good timing, but what's good timing? And you look at the cost of anything you do now or did 10 years ago, look at the cost blowout since, and maybe we've got to look at doing something reasonably soon rather than leaving it too long. And as I say, if you look at government ministers or something like that, maybe there's a way around that.
Quite really, don't we?
So what would a recommendation look like?
Well, I would say to look at those recommendations, we'll firstly receive the report. The second recommendation, that might well be a recommendation we can look at a later time, but I would seek a different recommendation that speaks that we've paused the project and we keep the project alive and seek other, with a view to seeing where else we could source funding, what other funding options may be available to us. And for the CE and the Mayor, if necessary, to go to Wellington and speak to Cabinet Ministers.
Well, it's not like you don't have contacts, Ron.
I know.
Time to use them, mate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Get on that phone and make an appointment now.
We'll do that. So how would we word that? Could we, as a useful recommendation for management? I think the sense is we don't want to kill it just yet. And we may end up there.
I just think
But it
really
hinges on the 12-month extension.
that point too, and I'm just thinking in terms of timing, if we're pausing it, we can't then progress an LTP without it in it if we're pausing it in the hope of reviving it because of the timing of it. Or does staff put in a submission to the long-term plan?
If we, sorry to interrupt, it's the question, Jeff. If we approve the increase in the project budget of this amount, if we then, for whatever reason, are not able to go ahead with it, then we're not spending that money anyway.
Correct. No. Because,
So it would be the cleanest way, I would think, for management is to move the recommendations, and if we have, and move it as it is written for recommendation 2.
Yeah.
Because Otherwise, we're
Just pausing it without any
It's-
financial impact would be
doesn't
risky.
make sense. It's just kind of, if we move this and if it gets across the line, then that's our line in the sand now. And then,
We do what we have to do.
Yeah.
Find extra time, you know.
Could I?
Yes, please.
So council hasn't adopted the long-term plan, and you won't adopt the long-term plan until the end of June, which is when this number, or this budget needs to be in or out.
Mhm.
So
We need to do it.
The deadline is end of June. I think. So in terms of reconsulting the LTP, this is a project. It's not a change in the level of service. So it's a project that wouldn't need further consultation as part of the LTP. If you required us to go and do some more work, the deadline would be to bring that back to council no later than the last when we adopt the LTP. Because
Okay.
that's the last
We'll
one
take
you
an
can
action
add it
point
in.
after this. I think I get that now. So look, I'm going to test the table. I'm going to firstly move that, ask that someone move that we receive the report.
Can I
No,
just
yes.
mention something? In the formal application for that variation, there will be an expectation that we would have actually started the project.
Okay.
So I think it's unlikely that we'll be successful if we don't start building it.
Got you.
So
Okay. So got that. Thank you. So someone to move that we receive the report. Can Deputy Mayor's moved, seconded by Councillor Della. All in favour? Against? Motion is carried. We have recommendation 2 and 3. I'm looking for someone who's prepared to move recommendation 2.
Before we get to that, can I just ask, I'm not quite sure what you meant, Johannes, when you said we'd have to have started to build it. Before what?
To get the extension.
Kanoa require commitment towards the project in order to extend the timeline. If we haven't started construction, that doesn't look like much commitment. So they are unlikely to
Start the project or start construction, because I read this as an extra 260 commitment to a $267,000 as the go ahead to keep the work going to advance the project. You're not going to be.
So the next step is to
Putting-
start building it.
Yes.
The next step is to start building it.
We've done the design,
Okay.
we've done the work.
Okay.
The next step is build it.
So,
Testing the table. Yeah.
but are you saying that unless we start building it, Kanoa won't extend the funding?
So it's unlikely. We haven't submitted an application. The conversation is that we haven't started building anything. So normally they would want to see progress in this.
I'm not
So
clearly
That's the case. Why would they give us 12 months?
Yeah.
So the question was asked, what could it be? So I said it could be up to 12 months. We don't know because we haven't applied for a formal. We haven't formally applied,
So it could be longer than that.
or it could be less.
Well, you're being very helpful right now, Johanna.
We haven't formally applied.
Yeah.
I got a suggestion then for the recommendation, as read, so approves an increase in the project budget of 267,679 to bring the total project budget Could we add subject to confirmation from Kanoa of an extension and timeframe?
We're not going to know unless we start building, is what you're saying.
So your advice to us is you don't really know if we're going to get an extension.
So
You,
So what I'm
Looking a bit
saying is they say that if we follow the process, we can be successful. Part of that conversation was that I had to reassure them that we can actually deliver it. It's not going to carry on for years. So,
Which we can deliver if we approve this.
so
Do we want to?
whether we're going to test the table.
If we were out in the wind on our own?
Yeah.
Without, I
How being actually excited about it.
I gather from what Ron was saying, and this is how I feel, that if we can let this thing roll on for a while, a whole bunch of stuff will unfold.
Yeah.
And it will become clearer as to whether we can sustain it or not.
So then we're just going to keep rehashing this every council
We
meeting.
run the risk of losing Kanoa's interest, which is necessary to make it happen. But if the only way we can keep their interest is to start.
Yeah.
So we have,
We don't know.
we've received, we've got a clear set of, we've got the go from Kanoa, there's 1.7 mil there.
Yeah.
Weds has come in behind us with the extra 128K.
Fun weirds.
Not to that amount.
Not to that, we don't, we're in the black with Weds. So
That Weds have come on board to me as a really strong indication of the opportunities for investing in there for future growth, economic, social, everything.
And I think the next, whether it's an action point or a resolution, that the CE and I look at where else we can raise money. And if that means going to the minister and outlaying this, because you don't give up until you're dead. That's my view. You know, at the end of the day, it might come crashing, but it's alive now. We've got money in the bank. It's free money.
My final thought is if we look at page 25, bullet point 6, next steps and progress. Option 1, the council could approve an increase in the project budget. Option 2, the recommended option, council sees further work on this project. I think we need to take into greater consideration the fact that our own staff, who we pay the big bucks to make these decisions, are saying this isn't something that we should fund. They're saying the risks outweigh the benefits at this time.
Yeah.
And we usually take their recommendations quite seriously. So I'm wondering why we aren't this time.
The same, was in the policy and projects meeting.
Yeah.
So which we voted against.
And we were elected to make decisions for our rohi as governors for what we see as the best interest, and we take advice from our management. And I know that in the past, the keyboard cowards have said we as councillors just do what management tell us without taking into account maybe the best interests of the future and future generations. And I think we take all of this information on board and we see where we land. But we were elected to make decisions for the district and for the future of the district.
That's why I was looking for a pause project, so we go and see if we can raise some extra money. But this is a recommendation there. Councillor Gallen, I think we need to move beyond this.
Andy Walker and the combined council meeting, everyone was pretty much saying we're in deep trouble with water.
Yeah.
Basically, we can't supply it. We're in deep trouble. Here we've got water sitting on our back doorstep and we're just not doing anything with it, you know. There's an opportunity there, you know.
I'm happy to move recommendation 2. I'm happy to second it.
I have a mover and I have a seconder, therefore the resolution is live. Is there any further comments that people wish to make? The mover or the seconder?
If this motion fails, is that the end of the story?
Go to option 3.
It goes to option 3, ceases.
Which raise a new motion.
Or you can raise a new resolution. Which is what I was proposing at the start, but we are where we are. Right. All right, so we have a mover and a seconder, Councillor Terry Campbell moving recommendation 2 and a seconded by Councillor Newman. All in favour?
Aye.
By hands, please. 2, 3, 4, 6. Against? You wish those recorded? Wish the vote be recorded, please. Councillor Della, Councillor Hayleen and Councillor Lawrence against.
I think it's an excellent project.
Yeah. Can we,
be at the point where we're at.
I think from here, what I would like to see is the CE and myself to advance conversations around where else we can source money from. And to, that is the key to making this affordable to the ratepayers.
And we do state in our draft LTP that it's about supporting water resilience, just quietly.
And
quietly.
So as this stands, does this mean that we now have to include this in the long-term plan?
Yep. Okay. And so from here,
I know.
the other thing that I will be mindful of, and I'm just saying, I will look at all other water projects being proposed by people outside of Garden District through this lens. And people can interpret that how they like. Great. Resolution has passed. We will proceed, and fortune favours the brave as a motto in the military. And let's see where we go. But I appreciate everybody's input. And I do appreciate the staff work. Now, just looking forward to Jeff and Johannes, some clarity around the extension now that we've passed that resolution. The sooner
Maybe
the
just
better.
maybe
The
just
sooner the better.
for clarity is, so even though budget's approved, project's paused until,
No,
so we can
We're going
go,
ahead.
we
We're
can
going
go
ahead.
ahead and we can vote.
We're
Build it.
going ahead.
Yep.
So,
you're going ahead.
right, well,
Okay.
Roger, extension and go ahead.
So you don't need an extension. Well, you do. Yeah. Look, I appreciate I appreciate the level of consideration and from all councillors. It was not an easy decision at all. 7.3, adoption of consultation document for the long-term plan 24 to 34. Here we go. Changed it.
Good evening, Kathleen. Just worship the map. This evening, isn't it?
Well, just before we kick off, I did say to Robin earlier that dinner is arriving at 6 and we would have an early break. We wouldn't go the full 2 because you don't want it getting cold.
I just had a cell phone call, but I couldn't answer it, but it could well be that it's out there at the moment. I'll go ahead and check.
Well, maybe this is the best time, 9 minutes, rather than breaking your
Have we got anything else on the agenda
Partway through.
that is short?
Can we the couple in? Yeah,
short.
I'm kind of in a.
Yeah,
advisory
the
group
very
pretty
last
quick.
one's pretty quick.
7.9. Yellow pages.
My,
7.8 and 7.9, the Waingawa service request,
Let's do-
7.7, 7.8, 7.9.
Please excuse us, everybody, while we jump forward in the agenda of 7.8.
And do 7.7.
Nice on
Service request.
comment. I'll go on.
We'll just rehash what Dale said last
Yeah.
time and the time. And the side of what?
Page
9 minutes.
345, I think.
Yeah, you can get there. Go.
I was,
They've made.
I don't know why we don't charge these people for the time it takes to complete.
Thank you.
Councillor Craig.
7.7. So, if I could just
Get there quickly.
talk to 7.7, I'm on page 345 of the agenda. This is a new report that we have brought to council.
7.7.
So 7.7, service requests and complaints. It's in the format of the Waingawa report, which is a requirement under legislation. But what we've added is the number of service requests council is getting, and also we're including the numbers of complaints that council is getting. And we're doing that to show council and the public what we are receiving in terms of feedback from our community and how we're dealing with that feedback. In particular, it includes both what we refer to as regulatory areas, so animal control, health and life control, etc., and non-regulatory areas. So it's just it may be a complaint about parks or reserves or road booms or that kind of thing that aren't really a regulatory function or behaviours. So we've tried to incorporate everything in there. But mostly the service request is the first part, log a job, something's broken or needs attention, and the complaints is more about we've got an issue and I'm complaining about some issue or other. So really just wanted to incorporate this as our first report for council to show you how we're doing, and this will be, if you're comfortable, we'll make this a regular report.
Councillor Newman.
question. Where does public complaints about or service requests about public toilets sit? Is that under parks and reserves?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Is it worthwhile splitting that out?
Could we get it split out further? Seeing as we're considering the public toilets at Carrington Park?
So the way we've looked at it here is by council activity. So there is an activity called animal control. There is an activity called parks and reserves. There's not an activity called public toilets.
Okay.
So
Public amenities?
So we could see if we could separate them out a little bit more with the information we've got, but it's mostly based on the activities that council does.
It would be interesting to see
Okay.
if there was a way to pull it.
I guess the ideal for this sort of report is to help us make decisions around investment in the future. So if there was a compelling case raised through complaints or issues at front counter that helps us progress, redevelopment in certain areas, that would be useful, yeah? Like rather than just record them as complaints and sort of cup half empty, can we look at these as a cup half full that help us identify the areas that need closer scrutiny?
Mm-hmm. Very good. Happy to do
That's really what.
Yeah, if any like common things that come out, it would be good to know them.
Yeah.
KPIs. In my capacity as word and grammar Nazi, in terms of complaints here, you've used the word recidivist, which strikes me as I looked it up just to make sure that it was accurate, and it is in terms of someone who's an habitual behaviour. But I just think the behaviour, the meaning's gone on to be pretty derogatory. And that may well be how it's meant, but I wonder if we can think of, well, something else.
There are other terms that Parliament uses, like vexatious.
Yeah, well, that's what it could
And
be.
they are
Worse.
descriptive. But they are what they are.
Stood out a bit.
I think that's the technical term to describe someone of that.
That won't accept a response.
Yeah.
And just keep.
Or just keep going. I know it's an unusual word. It is the technical word for it.
So you're right. It crops up a lot in the corrections, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Someone move that recommendation. Recommendation 6, we received a report moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by, no, you can't.
No, I'm sorry.
Councillor Newman, all in favour? Against, motion's carried. Dinner break.